Our guest in the studio is Yael Berda, who's an Associate Professor of Sociology and Anthropology at the Hebrew University. Yael is also co-chair of Land for All, a group which I think very much the name explains what it's about. Can you just give us a little context about the group you represent?
Yeah, so a Land for All, two states, one homeland, is actually a movement that works to promote two states within a shared homeland, so a confederation model that I can elaborate on in a few minutes, but that's the basic idea.
So when you see what is happening on the ground right now, regardless of who says what and why this has happened, clearly it must leave you feeling not very optimistic about the continuation of this ceasefire.
But that's the thing, right? So this moment demands a clear political horizon because the ceasefire is so fragile, because there are so many interests. Any kind of faltering, having not a clear agenda about the end game, about where we're going from here, gives a lot of room for distractions and power to spoilers who want to see this break. But the majorities of both peoples are sick and tired of loss and destruction and war. And although they still don't see each other as partners, what we view is that we have to envision how we share the homeland. And this is a very difficult moment to talk about this. It almost sounds to people, you know, it takes your breath away. But in order to stop the zero-sum game thinking, which you see here in the words and trying to like catch and show who's to blame all the time, it is this thinking as if someone is going to leave forever, right?
I hear what you're saying. It's one of these things that in order to tell the story, journalists, myself included, have to simplify. And it isn't a simple situation, is it? It's one of these things. So from my simple perspective, if you remove, say, Benjamin Netanyahu from the equation and Hamas, does that create the kind of atmosphere that you'd want to see in order to create what you're looking for?
I think it's not as simple as that. I think that's one of the reasons why political visions require both movements from below and also a continued commitment of the international community to see real change and a real horizon. And this is what we're offering. And what we're saying is, even now, as their efforts, which are humanitarian efforts and efforts to stabilize in the interim, we have to have an end game. We have to see that there will be a Palestinian state. Efforts that are led on the ground have to include Palestinian governance. These are the things that will lend things legitimacy and stability. And any kind of solution has to be rooted in Palestinian self-determination and in Israeli security. And the way we perceive this is that you do it not by this idea of separation, like, oh, okay, now we're going to have a big wall and that's going to work. It obviously failed, and it's been failing for the past 20 years. So our idea is to, yes, of course, two states, our peoples are not post-national, on the 67 border, but within a confederation model that is well known to Europeans now, that allows for freedom of movement, that allows for residency across the land, and first of all, allows for the recognition, even if one doesn't accept it, the recognition that for both peoples, this is their perceived homeland. And so what we're offering is two states to end the occupation and one homeland to end the conflict.
But when you voice this to certain members of certain political persuasions on the Israeli side, clearly you must get a very skeptical response.
Absolutely. And the thing is that what we see is also a very weak formal opposition. I mean, there is a civil opposition on the ground that is very different and much more open to these kind of changes. But the formal opposition refuses to be courageous enough to move forward. And we only have a few members of Knesset that are kind of willing to go with these kind of visions. But when you talk to them privately, people say, oh, we want to see this path. We wish to see more of it, but we don't know how to get there. And that's exactly where, again, international community has to work together. You have to have people on the ground doing the work, but it has to be ushered, helped from the outside with sustained pressure and not to let up for even a moment.
So given what the likes of Donald Trump has been saying about creating a different Gaza Strip and basically expelling Palestinians, that now appears to have been dismissed as a plan. There still is going to be an amazing redevelopment of that area. Are you saying that the Palestinians have to be front and center in that?
Absolutely. Any kind of scheme that that is looking to long-term stability, legitimacy, and building networks of governance that are going to actually work, I mean, infrastructures of governance that are going to work, they have to be Palestinian-led. They have to include Palestinian decision-making. And yes, absolutely, you need international oversight. You need help. You definitely need a lot of money. But if it's not... you need Israelis and Palestinians to be involved in their own decision-making. And this is a very important thing. Another really important thing is that we have to equalize the terrain. You can't keep having a situation in which Israel calls the shots and then the Palestinians are left to retaliate against whatever that is. The point is, we have to see in any kind of motions and shifts that are taken right now, any kind of steps, have to look to the future. What does this build? How does this build shared capacities? How does this work about, how do you build an environmental policy that works for all of this land? How do you build public health from the river to the sea? And, people start to say, they say, oh, we can't even imagine this. But that's the point. We have to use this fragile moment to envision future.
Yeah, we could talk forever about this one. There are so many aspects of this that we haven't covered, but sadly time is against us. But please, thank you for coming in. Please continue your good work, because I think regardless of where you stand on this, what you're suggesting is something where two peoples could be living together, working together, developing together and going forward. And that's got to be a positive thing, no matter where you stand. Yael Berda, Associate Professor of Sociology and Anthropology at the Hebrew University. Yael is also co-chair of Land for All. Thank you for sharing your vision with us and bringing it here to France 24. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed.